Hey all, here at OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Conquest S16. This is a rugged Android smartphone that packs in fairly impressive specs, including a Helio P90 processor and also has 8 gigs of built-in RAM. Constructed really like a tank with these titanium edges on the sides, in addition to having military specifications for shockproof, waterproof, solar radiation proof, also packs in a triple camera array on the rear with a 48 megapixel main Sony lens, along with a wide-angle lens, which is 16 megapixels, up to 118 degrees field of view, and a 8 megapixel telephoto zoom lens. The phone also comes with pretty much all these sensors that you can possibly expect, including built-in wireless charging using Qi. You can also charge it using an included dock, in addition to using Type-C for charging. A UV or ultraviolet sensor, which can detect how intense the light or solar energy is in the area. Definitely a big phone compared to other 6.3-inch devices. It's going to be definitely thicker because of the sturdy build, in addition to a pretty large 6,000 milliamp hour capacity battery inside, which will last you for over 2 to 3 days before you need to recharge it again in my testing so far. At the same time though, it's not overly heavy. It still feels decent enough just to carry with you when you are on the go. The other side features customizable keys, including push to talk. There's an AI button and a hot swappable key that you can set up using the software to open up any application. Now, the only con from the hardware perspective is the phone doesn't come with a standard 3.5mm headphone jack. The display on this phone is also pretty good. It's a Full HD Plus resolution, 19:9 aspect ratio with a water drop notch on the very top. As far as rugged phones are concerned, it also has decent sized bezels, which are pretty modern as far as the overall design is concerned. It doesn't feel too different from many other mid-range and flagship phones these days. The screen here is plenty sharp and also very vibrant with wide viewing angles. It's protected by Corning Gorilla Glass 5, so it's also very durable to things like scratches as well as to daily usage. Feels very smooth and responsive in day-to-day navigation. The screen though could definitely get a little bit brighter. Right now we are at maximum brightness. Certainly didn't have any problems in terms of seeing it, even if I'm outdoors and there's a bit of sunlight hitting on it. But for a ultra rugged phone, if you are in a really intense area, maybe in the desert, something like that, then the visibility could still be, I think, cranked up even more. The overall Android experience here has been customized by the manufacturer, but we still have the Google shade on the left to take a look at our news feeds, and we also have the built-in array of standard Google utilities, including YouTube, Gmail, Maps, and Photos that we can find. But there's also a handful of secondary tools that are unique to the Conquest, including a toolbox where you can find some of the custom tools which takes advantage of the hardware functions. Test the pressure level and your altitude in the area, works pretty well. There's also a heart rate monitor which we showed off in the unboxing video that uses the sensor towards the camera to detect, similar to Samsung Galaxy phones, also works decently, and the UV test application here also works well. And in normal conditions, even on a sunny day, it will just be around 2 or 3 in the safety region where you can still go outside. So unless there's some kind of solar flare or some really difficult environment, you won't really see it fluctuate too highly in most kind of residential areas. In terms of that customizable function key that I mentioned, you can actually set it up in the settings to open up a variety of apps. Right now, a long press for me will turn on the LED torch, as you can see there, versus a double click for me will open up YouTube automatically, and I can do something else altogether, including tap once to open up a different application. So there's a lot of customization that you can pick from. Now, technically running the show here is Android 9.0 Pie instead of, say, the latest Android 10.0. With that being said, it's not too big of a deal in terms of the overall navigation and the ability to install most applications from the Play Store. Everything is still, for the most part, pretty up to date. The drop-down shade here has also been tweaked by Conquest to give you access to a slightly different font size, but the actual tools that you can access, like a battery saver mode, NFC, do not disturb, are all pretty typical. Navigation and the fluidity of the phone are all top-notch thanks to that Helio P90 processor, even more so than, say, the Umidigi A7 Pro that we did a review on just a few days ago. The difference between the two in terms of the speed and fluidity is definitely noticeable. Now, if we jump into the camera here just by double tapping the power key, the interface is pretty simple and straightforward, but the launch speed is very quick, also fast to capture an image. And from here we have a few different options, including adjusting to a wide angle mode that uses the 118 degree lens. This is the normal camera here, which can be used to turn on various scene detection options, up to 15 different scenes, including food, people, flowers, plants, it will automatically detect that depending on your subject, and actually works pretty well in my testing to get you a more optimized shot. Time-lapse, and there's even a QR code scanner that you can find directly. In terms of video recording, it's capable up to 4K without any real complaints to get plenty of detail and sharpness, or you can also lower it to something like 12 or 16 to save on the memory. And by default, if you are capturing HDR shots or using the AI mode, it will downgrade the resolution to 12 megapixels. Overall, this is an awesome camera lens. We can see here this one was captured using the primary 48 megapixel sensor with plenty of detail. It's actually detected that this is the auto kind of plant or scenery mode. Everything looks punchy and vibrant. The texture and colors of the blue sky here is still retained. Just looks awesome. And this one here, by contrast, is the wide angle lens. Standing in the same spot, we can get more into one shot. Wide angle lenses have gotten gradually more popular, which I am happy about just because it's always a pleasure to use. A few other samples here indoors. Even in slightly dimmer environments, objects still look quite sharp and colorful. So this is really an excellent sensor, I think, for a relatively mid-end phone in terms of the price point. You definitely will be satisfied in terms of the photography capabilities of this device to share them on social media. Only con here is you don't have really a close-up camera lens or really a micro/macro lens, but as a whole, the primary sensor can get still pretty close to your subjects, and because of the super high megapixel count, you can always crop in and still get sufficient sharpness. Super impressive as far as a mid-priced phone is concerned, and you really won't be disappointed with its performance. A quick demo using the speaker with the YouTube app and see how it functions. It's really smooth in terms of scrolling and animations, as expected with a pretty flagship level processor here. No slowdowns at all. Overall audio quality is pretty good. It definitely gets plenty loud at the maximum settings, which is important because that's also going to be used for certain emergency modes, such as in the toolbox, there is a siren alarm that you can ring if, for example, you're stranded somewhere, if you are in an area where you're trying to get other people's attention. So packs plenty of volume, but it's not the best speaker per se in terms of hi-fi or the pure audio quality, just because it's a mono unit located on the rear, so it can get a little bit easily covered up if you're not too careful with it. Reception quality using Wi-Fi as well as 4G both are very strong, and certainly didn't have any problems in terms of playing back videos almost instantly after clicking on them. The large display looks beautiful, and it's super punchy and vibrant for an IPS display, making it very enjoyable for watching videos with. It feels immersive, and again, can be a great content watching experience, especially with that huge battery. You're able to just use it continuously for hours and hours. A pretty stock Gboard is built on in by default, so we can jump into, say, a quick search of a different website. Let's also try to demand the desktop version of the site here in this quick test, and as a whole, it still loads back very quickly, even on complex sites. So this is definitely, again, a device that will keep up in terms of multitasking, as well as even demanding websites can be handled very quickly. As is expected with this processing package, and also the whopping 8 gigabytes of RAM on a phone is still very much top of the line. You'll be able to keep, say, more than 10 or 15 tabs open in the browser, jump back and forth between them, and things will still be pretty fast and responsive. Operation-wise, there's plenty of settings that you can tweak around with that Conquest has built in, including double tap on the home key to turn the display off, double tap to wake it up. By default, the home screens are going to be in this iOS-like fashion, where there is no universal app tray, and there's no way to actually bring it back under settings. One thing that you can do is always bring it up with something like Nova Launcher. If you want to tweak that yourself, it's still pretty easy to do. The final thing I want to talk about here is really the performance on other applications and gaming. Really, if you're looking at mid-end games or 2D style games, it just becomes a breeze for this thing to handle. In this very simple game, all we do is just catch these floating bars as they are moving around on the screen, but it is in this very kind of retro style with Windows 95 inspired animations and icons. It just is a very nostalgic little game, and again, it's a very simple title, but everything runs very smoothly. Even during heavy games, if you use it for, say, more than kind of 30 minutes or an hour, it still remains pretty cool in temperature. This is not a processor that overheats or thermo throttles. Another demo of a game here, which isn't super graphically demanding, but still looks great on this display. Everything runs really smoothly, as even the heaviest titles, AAA for mobile games, will run perfectly fine. Simpler titles like this will be a breeze for it to handle. So that's more or less it as far as our hands-on review of the Conquest S16, this ultra-durable smartphone which functions really well, but more than that, is built like a tank. It's super strong and sturdy, so if you are someone that likes to do a lot of extreme sports, or if you want something that's more of a peace of mind, but doesn't compromise too much in terms of the performance and has virtually every single sensor under the sun baked on in, along with the camera system that is actually pretty impressive. You can check out more details if you're interested in the links down below, but for now that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews. That's been the Conquest S16.